Okay, we should be rocking, we should be rolling. It is time to do a live stream and doing a book review or overview, or is it a flip through? It's something like that. In any case, I'm going to be talking about the Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Okay, sound seems to be coming through. Alright, so I'll pull out earplugs now. If you notice that the sound's a little bit strange, it's because to a large extent I am standing up. And if you hear a chair move, that's because I'm moving position. Okay, hi everybody. How's it going, Anton? Hi Tamis. So if you're rewatching this video, you will find that the start time is included down in the description as always, so you can skip past all of my setup. As I always do, I always have some sort of setup. Hi Riley, how's it going? So, and now, if you haven't seen my presentations before, normally what I do is I present everything first. Once I've presented everything and shown you everything, then I open it up to questions. Now, I will keep an eye on the chat box, the live chat box, so if you want to comment and say stuff as I go, if I spot it, I will certainly respond as best I can and sort of and help you, answer your questions, particularly if there's something you want to know about the book, and it might help you in deciding whether you would like this book or whether you would prefer not to get this book, essentially. Okay, so let's start, shall we? Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're talking about, as it happens, a new book. The new book, Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Now, I got this book not so long ago. I had to wait quite a few months to actually get it to New Zealand, but I finally now have a copy. And I was looking on YouTube, and there aren't that many sort of reviews and discussions about the adventure and sort of showing you what's in the book. And it's a huge book. I've got to say right now, my gosh, wow, holy Toledo. It is massive. I will go over some of the numbers with this book. I'm going to show you everything as best I can as well. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention to the story arcs right now, Dragon Heist was released not so long ago, and it was for level 1 through to 5, and this new adventure takes you from level 5 to level 20, which is just madness. It's crazy. It's lunacy. And it's also really cool that they attempted to do something like this. So let's have a look at the book and discuss a little bit about what I think of this book and some of the features of this book. For those of you who are excited, I tell you, man, I was really excited as I looked through this book, read some of the sections. It's pretty impressive. Okay, so first off, this is a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, and it's for exploring a mega dungeon of Undermountain. Tell me nobody wanted that when Tales of the Yawning Portal was released, because I know they did. I know I did. I know all the players at my table wanted that, and now we finally have it. So this is supposed to be an overview of Undermountain. Now, Undermountain has been released as adventures in the past. This is not the first time. There are some key features to this book which are mind-blowing, and a few things that I have to say, to start off with, I was upset about. Okay, but I will explain what I mean. So for those of you who are waiting or hoping for a really solid link from Dragon Heist to this one, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, that's not really the case. Okay, you will have to do a little bit of work if you want to make that happen for you in your game. So in the city of Waterdeep rests a tavern called the Yawning Portal, named after the gaping pit in the common room, which is basically the main area. At the bottom of this crumbling shaft is a labyrinth, a dungeon shunned by all but the most daring adventurers. Known as Undermountain, this dungeon is the domain of the mad wizard Callister Blackcloak. Now, Blackcloak doesn't feature a huge amount in the adventure itself. you have to get quite some way through the adventure to actually encounter Callister Blackcloak. In fact, if you thought you were watching this and you weren't going to get spoilers, I'll tell you now, you're definitely going to get spoilers. So if you're planning to play, stop watching. If you're Dungeon Master, hang around. Long has this mad mage dwelt in the forlorn depths, sending his leery monsters and traps and mysteries. Now, some of these things escape from time to time. And so, to what end? Now, nobody really knows what Callister's really getting up to. And this is essentially your opportunity to see if the players can actually figure out what's going on. There are 23 levels. 23 levels. It's huge. It goes from level 5 through to level 20. Now, if you've ever played from level 1 to level 20, it's a mammoth undertaking. It takes years, unless you're playing a huge amount of games every week. Otherwise, you're just never going to get there. So let's have a look inside and sort of show you. Now, the artwork's pretty nice. For those of you who are wondering where I got my copy, I actually purchased it from the book depository. I just can't afford to go and support my local gaming store nowadays because it's just too expensive. I live in New Zealand, everything's expensive here. So hence, I purchased it in a different manner, and it's the book depository for me. This is on DMsGuild.com. I don't believe so, Riley. You'll find it as it's a hard copy. You should be able to pick up the content from D&D Beyond if you wanted to. Okay, so here we go. Opening page. I'm not going to read the disclaimer. The disclaimers are getting sort of sad, if you ask me. I don't even bother with them nowadays. So this is basically going to give you an overview of Undermountain. It breaks it down, as you can see there, the contents page breaks it down pretty nicely so you can find everything, including sort of an overview of Undermountain, each of the different levels. Each level comprises anywhere from 3 to 10 pages or maybe more. The vast majority of the book is adventure content, and you do get a small amount of appendix or appendices at the end, but it actually takes up very little space, including any kind of monsters. So if you were expecting a sort of a big supply of new monsters, no, that's not really the case. The Elder Runes deck is included, and the Secrets deck is also included in the book, and we'll see them very shortly. It gives you a key for the dungeons. Their maps are really vast, quite large and complicated, so you will need to sort of have some idea of what the different symbols mean. You get an overview. It also, what I love about it is it shows you each level and numbers it, and it indicates down the side here what level the characters should be when they're playing that level. And it gives you some information on how you would stop some of the players from entering locations that they really can't handle and might be too powerful for them, or at least giving them a hint that they shouldn't go there just yet. It gives you an idea of XP, but I think probably the smartest way to run this adventure is to use the milestones method rather than anything else. So you get an overview. It gives you a history of the dungeon, breaking it down, sort of talking about Callister Blackcloak and what took place here, because quite a lot of different things happened. Lots of different structures have been built on this location. So yeah, you get a bit of, I would say, not all the history you might want, but sufficient to do the job. A little bit of information on the Yawning Portal, the tavern, and some adventure hooks. These are basically sort of designed to help you sort of feed the players' characters into the dungeon. What I find though when I was reading through these is they seem to be very poor adventure hooks, because they seem to assume that as the players are exploring the location, they're sort of picking up these missions or quests as they go. Well, while you're going down there, could you do this? That's the sort of the mentality behind those adventure hooks. So pay a harper debt, search for Cresto Rosna, I believe it is, Throne of the Coronal, and then these ones here, these future quests, have prerequisites that you have to complete before you'll get anywhere. So if you want to run those ones, then you know your players' characters have to actually have achieved something in the past in that location to be able to do them. which I think is actually smart because it does also indicate sort of what level they should be to be able to be involved in that. There's some details on some of the secrets of Undermountain. Gives you a little bit of information on a key individual who they really won't actually meet as such, but interacts with them in a way that is trying to keep them alive. Now, how can I pronounce it? Is it Gisaya? Gisaya is basically one of Callister's apprentices, and she resides within the structure of the dungeon itself, and she will try to help the players' characters get through and defeat and dispose of Callister so that she can take over control of Undermountain. Now, the players won't ever really be aware of that, but that's certainly part of the dynamics of this dungeon. It gives you the features, how the different features might work within the dungeon, sort of like the heights of ceilings, room sizes, tunnels, how they work, how light works, secret doors and doors, what they would be made out of, so you don't have that information being repeated right throughout the entire adventure. It's all there. It also explains magic and how magic is affected by the dungeon itself, which it is. So things like teleport and gate, dimensional door, things like that aren't really going to work in this location. You can't just get yourself out with magic out of the dungeon locations and then back in whenever you want to. So that doesn't work. Now here, very important down the side here, are Callister's goals. Now one of the things I found a little bit frustrating about Callister's goals is they are, well, there's many of them. There's 6 goals. One is cleaning house. He wants the adventurers, he's going to help the adventurers, and quite happy for adventurers to explore his dungeon, to clean out some of the monsters and individuals who dwell in his dungeon that he doesn't want there anymore. So that's part of the goal. Also, that he apparently Callister wants to have a lich by the name of Ezart destroyed and eliminated because he's been causing problems for Callister. So that's another goal. Striking fear into the heroes' hearts. So luring them down so that he can just terrify them. So that would be one of his another goal. You can see, as I'm reading this through, what I noticed is that some of the goals are conflicting. And that's where I see a problem. If you have a goal for a mad mage, I suppose you could have conflicting goals, but it doesn't seem to be coherent, if you see what I mean. Okay, goal 4 is becoming Waterdeep's Shadow Lord. So he wants to run Waterdeep, but from underneath the city rather than above the city. So he's creating individuals who will control the city or the lords of Waterdeep, but he is the true ruler. That's what he wants. So I think that is one of the strongest elements and reasons why Callister might be involved. You might want to have something happen above ground to sort of draw them down. Earthquakes, volcanoes, big giant statues moving around and causing havoc might be a good way to sort of draw them down into the Undermountain location. He also wants them to find his apprentices and to a large extent either eliminate them or kill them. Callister, although he might start off with the mentality of I want to help my apprentices, it's not going to work out well if he does find them. That's the simple fact. And also locating one in particular, Gisaya, which we just talked about a second ago. Now, for those of you who are wondering how long this video would be, oh my gosh, it's going to be quite long. So, Elder Runes. There is a whole lot of gates within this location, arch gates, mirror gates, standing gates. That means you can take this adventure from being in a dungeon and start traveling the plains. If you wanted to have an adventure that expanded beyond the Forgotten Realms, you can do it from here because there are quite a number of different gates that lead to other locations that you could use. As I said, there is no sort of overarching threat that's spelled out. It's really left to the Dungeon Master to decide. They have provided you with some options. You decide what you want to do with that. Callister is obviously the one you want to sort of focus on, but you could do anything with it as whatever you like. Now, I'm going to say right now, before I start flipping through the rest of this book, and there's a lot of it, there is limited artwork. You'll see about one piece of artwork per chapter or level. It's easily or simply laid out, so it's easy to follow. So simple black and white maps, easy to follow layout. They are short adventures. Each dungeon level has a theme to it and quite a lot going on. There's lots of little story arcs going on all at the same time. 23 dungeon levels is a huge amount. That does not include Skullport. Skullport is also there. It has 320 pages of content. Almost all of it is adventure content. A few levels are fine for the beginner, Dungeon Master. For those of you who are starting out, I think you'll find that some of these levels will be fine for you and actually be quite suitable, easy to prepare. But as a general rule, I feel like this is a skeleton book. The book, I feel, as an overall construction, is better suited for an experienced Dungeon Master who can build from a skeleton and provide the book all the links that are required to make it work. There's also no read aloud text in the book whatsoever. What it does is break it down and give you sort of bullet points and bold print headers so you can see what sort of is going on. Okay, so dungeon level 1 is just called the dungeon level, and honestly I think it's one of the poorer names they have given to any of the levels, but who cares, never mind, it's done. So what's going on in this level? It is home to a bandit gang and Xanathar's goblins that are basically in league with the Beholder Crime Lord. Now Xanathar was discussed in part of the story of Dragon Heist, so he still plays a part in the first couple of levels and some of the lower levels as well, but the first level in particular. You get the Undertakers. The Undertakers are basically the gang I was talking about, and then the Xanathar's guild is made up of a bunch of goblins that he commands. As you can see, it's structured with the same sort of layout every time. So you get a little bit about the information on the chapter, so who dwells here, a little bit of information on those individuals. Then it goes to wandering monsters. We've got carrion crawlers, we've got goblin skull hunters, and we've got shield guardians. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Level 5 and we're dealing with a shield guardian wandering around, but anyway, they'll be able to handle it. It's fine. Exploring this level is broken up, it's numbered, it's well laid out. Now the maps, I know a lot of people aren't very happy with the concept of these maps, but they're so large and so complicated, I can kind of understand why they have laid them out this way. Almost all of the maps have at least 20 or 30 locations to them, and they don't even include every single location from the original Undermountain. The original Undermountain is a mega dungeon. It's much larger than this map here. The first level is massive. I couldn't even fit it in front of the screen right now if we laid it out. So entry points, Hall of Many Pillars. These are familiar locations that people have been to before. The Pillar Forest, Slated Room, with sword in hand, grill hat. Now, there are grill in here. There are sprinklings of monsters as you go. Included are dynamics between the bandits and the goblins. And so you could play one off the other if you wanted to. Crucible of Skulls, Hall of Heroes. Now, Hall of Heroes is a well-known location. I've used that location when I've run Undermountain before. A Manticore Den, yes, that means manticores. Manticores do dwell in this location, and a lot of other different creatures as well. Temples, there's a Troll Den, yes, trolls. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. It's level 5, it's the first level, and level 5 characters, and we're dealing with trolls already. Yep, that's exactly right. Some of the rooms are completely empty, and then there are a number of doors that you can sort of access. Now, I don't want to go through every single aspect of each level because there's just too much, but you'll notice how things are laid out. You can see the dark and bold sections to give you an idea of the different features of the location, room or chamber, and of course dark and bolded is things like treasure, monsters, and things that would stand out and be important for the players to know, and for you to know as the Dungeon Master. Yes, there is an Intellect Devourer on the first level. Okay, level 2 is, this looks like rust monsters to me. So I would expect rust monsters in this location. So level 2 is Arcane Chambers. This is a goblin tribe that claims this level, and the Rustbone tribe have erected what's called a bazaar. It's a market, a trading place for trading with anybody within this location. So you have a marketplace where you can buy stuff. Seriously, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. There's goblins, there's drow, there's a were-rat gang. Xanathar's guild is involved as well in this location. There's many different factions involved. It does talk very briefly about wandering monsters, and you certainly could include them. But there's a lot of goblins and a lot of other creatures that I've just mentioned. Now, if you notice that map, same sort of style. It's very plain and simple, easy for a dungeon master to draw over at night when you're having trouble looking at it. Okay, Callister Puppet. You actually come across a puppet of Callister who is it's been animated, and it's actually performing a task. It's working on an experiment. The arch gate to level 4. So some of these gates will take you from one level to another level, so you don't have to sort of wade your way through the entire level going one level at a time if you don't want to do that sort of thing. An abandoned camp. Music of the dead. Yes, there are going to be dead things in here. What I noticed is this is very much a lot of puzzles, a lot of strange locations, plenty of traps. Some of the levels are just absolutely littered with traps, but some of them are very much focused on just finding stuff. There is a flesh golem in this level for those of you who are wanting to know sort of what sort of monsters they might encounter. So definitely flesh golems. There's an altar to Jubilex, which means you're going to get slimes, the orchid jelly, and various oozes, creatures. A gelatinous cube, because there's actually an ooze temple, not just an altar to Jubilex. Makes perfect sense to me, right? Mutant Apprentices. So yes, there's a few apprentices that never made it to the full-fledged apprenticeship with Callister and wind up just becoming mutants, and they are gibbering mouthers. So yes, gibbering mouthers will be included in that level too. Bear with me as my voice might give out. I've only got so far through this thing. Dust. You can see what I mean is it's just walls and walls of text. And I kind of understand, considering how much stuff they've crammed in, you kind of have to do it that way anyway. You will come across monsters that are already dead, that have been defeated or crushed by something else. You might even come across individuals from older adventuring parties that have been broken up or destroyed, or have sort of made themselves a home here. A few giant spiders. This is really rare. To see a little piece of artwork like this in this adventure is very rare. Usually it's only at the very beginning of a level or chapter for this this whole mega dungeon. The barrel run. The barrel run reminds me of the barrel. What was it? What was it? The Hobbit, and they were all the dwarves were in the barrels going down the river. Yes, yes, it reminds me a little bit of that. Ancient secrets, and if they don't complete the tasks or do what the main focus of that level is, there's an aftermath. So it explains to you what happens either way, which I thought was a good feature. It's like a conclusion for each level, making it a little bit easier to sort of understand what's going on. Okay, level 3 is Sargath level, or Sarguth, something like that. It's a subterranean town of Stromkuldur. It is being fought over by the drow and a bunch of goblins. Now, you're going to notice that there's a lot of interaction from the drow within this adventure. They have machinations and interactions with most of the different levels right through the entire thing. There is a hobgoblin warlord, a legion of Azarok. They play a huge part in this adventure. There are side quests included. Sometimes you'll come across a little box text and it gives them a side quest that they can complete. It might be passed on by one of the individuals within that location, or from somewhere else outside of this location, sort of above ground. Huge location. You'll notice here it says 1 square equals 10 feet. These are not 5-foot squares. These are massive locations. Catacombs, dead explorers to come across, Greeks to fight in battle or just avoid. Might be better just to avoid them. Troglodytes. I believe there's even a whole level that's dedicated to just troglodytes, sort of like a troglodyte home. Plenty of temples. There's a prison here where a number of individuals are kept who have been captured for various reasons, so cells you can unlock. A whipping room, sounds like my sort of thing. Wailing tunnels, caves of river coven, or something like that. Let's keep flowing through this as quickly as we can. Riverside caves, stone carver's hall. So a lot of the structure was built by dwarves and before that from other individuals, but dwarves have played a huge part. So you will come across locations that have been reworked by the Malikan dwarves, and they have reworked the stone, carved things into doors, statues and other forms, and they feature throughout the entire thing. Dangerous paths, crossfire caves, that sounds like a gauntlet of death for the drow to use. There is a chimera, there are chimera lair within that location. Now you don't have to go to every single location to complete a level. You can skip some of it. There's a morgue, and there's also a barrel stalk garden, so full of fungus spores. There's gardeners that tend this location. They're goblins who sort of have a strange fetish for looking after just underground growing plants, really. So yes, it's not all about we're just here to be disposed of. I think there is a huge opportunity to role play if the players want to do that. Okay, level 4 is the Twisted Caverns. So Ulan, the Aboleth, is trying to drive out a tribe of Kurtoa that have settled in his cave location. That means, yes, there is an Aboleth in this location. That's for level 8 characters. Yeah, they don't actually need to do too much, but there's an opportunity to interact with the Aboleth. The drow are involved again. There are Kurtoa, as I just explained, fungi creatures. It does sort of highlight the different sort of vegetation that might grow in this location. There's a lot of vegetation that grows here, so it does sort of go over that sort of stuff here and sort of explain how they work. The saving throws are included, what sort of spells might be used to sort of avoid being poisoned by mushrooms. Exploring the level, as you can see, it's a fairly vast location. You've got a fungus forest. Death from above is pierces. I never liked pierces. Pierces mean ropers, so I suppose you could add in a roper if you really wanted to. There is slard, so a green slard if you want to play with them, play with the players' heads. Driders, spiders, drow, tripwires, traps, and yes, all sorts of... Look, every conceivable type of chamber is in this book as far as I can tell. There's a bat cave, not where Batman lives, but where bats live and other things. Drow rafts. It includes a lot of rivers and even sort of underground lakes too. The lake where the Aboleth resides is a dangerous place to go. There's chulls. They're sort of like a crab-like being or creature that sort of works for the Aboleth, doing whatever it wants. And the Aboleth is always trying to gain more control over a variety of different things. The Grotto of Madness, Lost Island of Babalar Slop. Gosh, who knows what that's supposed to mean. So, yep, we'll keep going. There are a bunch of Kurtoas who are taking refuge in this level too. So you might find yourself in a situation where you want to try and help them because they've been driven out from other locations. As happens in any kind of dungeon, right? The Hooked Horrors Homestead. Yes, there are Hooked Horrors who live here in this location. They have a larder. You could be part of it. I mean, your players, characters might be part of it. Okay, so level 5 is Willow Wood. Now with level 5 there is an archdruid called Willow, of course, who lives in a tower in the Willowwood Forest with a dragon who is suffering from some sort of identity crisis, and there's a bunch of goblins who have, through a freak of whatever nature, wound up becoming werebats. So when they it's not like the moon comes up and the sun comes up. There's no change and that sort of thing, so they can probably transform into werebats whenever they like. I haven't read the entire thing, but I thought the idea was fascinating and quite amusing. You can see our image is of a displacer beast, so plenty of fun to be had. Valdemar. Now, there are a number of really important key NPCs within the entire adventure that make appearances and have effects on different levels. So as I said, it's the politics of the dungeon itself is actually really involved. There's a basilisk in here, will-o'-the-wisps, werebats, cloakers. You've got the internal forest and the external forest, and then of course you've got Willow's Tower, which you can go and explore. Maybe you'll even be on good terms with the archdruid. You never know. It goes over the throne room. We've got alcoves of the dead. Yes, there are some undead creatures in here making their homes. And included are, so what's been happening underground is Umber Hulks have been tunneling through Undermountain, and they will actually link up some of the levels to one level to another level. So you can literally use those tunnels rather than going through the entire level to find an access point to the next one to go further down or go up. You can use the Umber Hulk tunnels to get from one location to the next, which I thought was a really cool idea. I think Area 1 on level 6. This is where it'll take you to, just here, number 8. There's a green dragon. There's a bunch of dragons. If you're worrying about there being dragons and loot and treasure hoards, don't be concerned, because there's heaps of that sort of thing in here. We'll float on down the river. Vul's Refuge. So I was talking about werebats. The goblins have their own sort of refuge here. Abandoned barracks. A lot of locations have been sort of wiped out by previous monsters, so it's not always going to be every location there's a beast to destroy. And next we have level 6, the Lost level. The Lost level has been sealed off for some time, so it hasn't actually been accessible till just recently. So level 6 is the Umber Hulks have burrowed through into the Lost complex, allowing the Iron Eye Duergar to plunder it. These are like dark dwarves. So you're going to have plenty of time with dark dwarves or Duergar, raiders of the clan Iron Eye. And yes, a bunch of Umber Hulks. There we go. So tunneled. Now you can see it indicates sort of mostly the passages are sort of complete, but there are a few where there's sort of rough wiggly lines. Those are the locations where the Umber Hulks are sort of burrowed through the ground into that location. Libraries, workshops, ransacked rooms, acolytes' chambers, the King's Walk. So yes, I thought this was really, really impressive. Temple of Dumathon. What is that? I'm not entirely sure. We'll keep going though. Heart of the Mountain. Now that doesn't mean that the Arkenstone lives here, because I'm pretty sure that's a different story completely. False tombs. So like any location, you would expect there to be something that is false or hidden, and so there's a bunch of those included here. Demons. There are demons that have been trapped by Callister within the dungeon level, or levels. So you've got to be careful what you do. If you touch something, you could wind up unleashing trapped demons or gods. That can be bad news, because a lot of them aren't really very happy about being trapped for long periods of time. Resting areas, mummification chambers. Oh, that means mummies. Yes, that does. Black cloak. So some of the regions actually focus specifically on Callister, and they'll show up as like a statue or some sort of animated construct or some information on the end. It's like he's putting his mark on that location to indicate that's his. It's like, I guess, hanging a picture in your own home. Showers and saunas. Yes, if you want to have a sauna after a hard day's work slaying monsters, you can have a sauna. Music halls, hidden pits, privies. Okay, and our level 7's a little bit unusual. It's called Mad Goths Castle. Now, Mad Goth doesn't really play a huge part in this particular location. The area has been constructed, and certainly Mad Goth's Castle does feature in this level, but you don't really come across Mad Goth as such. He very rarely finds himself in Undermountain. He's doing his own thing. But the key feature is you get to journey through caverns to Mad Goth's Castle, which is a miniature castle, which you shrink down. If you go and try to enter it, you shrink down so you can actually move around it. And it's in these cavern areas are inhabited by forgetful giants. So even if you manage to develop a relationship with them, you don't actually get to capitalize on that, because they will forget who you are as soon as a certain period of time has passed, which I thought was sort of kind of neat, but also a shame too. So yes, Mad Goth's Castle. Now it's based on an adventure that was written quite some time ago. There's usually a little box that indicates where that level originally was located. So the stone giants, a lot of stone giants. For those of you who wanted to have giants, you're going to get plenty of them, and a lot of Umber Hulk shells. So you can see this is the main location, but in the center here is a castle, and then it breaks it down and gives you the different levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the castle location itself. Huge. Absolutely massive. I hope you guys brought yourself a good drink, something to eat, and went to the toilet before watching this. Strange rock formations, Zora's flute. Yes, there are plenty of really strange magic items within here. Things that you can eat that will do. I almost edible moss. Edible moss, it sort of suggests to me Alice in Wonderland. If you know what I'm talking about, eating a mushroom. There are other sort of innuendos involved, but yes, there are some really strange magic items. Some that are very powerful, some that are just wacky and odd. And we'll keep flicking through here. Magic mirrors. Expect every type of magic maze or maze location you can possibly imagine. It's going to be in here somewhere. The grey slud. So that's those froggy creatures, magic swords that fly around, mind flayers. Yes, there are mind flayers within the levels of Undermountain. You can be guaranteed. All controlled by an elder brain, which we'll get to eventually. Bats. Not every level is built around just fighting and killing stuff. You don't actually necessarily have to do that at all. Mad Goth can return. Mad Goth has been described as an archmage, an evil archmage, who has extended his life, or he's just a lich. So if you wanted to just include him, the lich stat block, then use that. And there's plenty of Menzoloth demons to protect him. Okay, so level 8, as you can see, it looks like it's the Slither's Swamp. So plenty of frog creatures. So level 8 consists of the Scythian Scourge, a pair of Spirit Naga. There used to be 3, but now there's only 2. And they're waging war on the Black Tongue Bollywog tribe in this foul swamp. And as I said, like before, it gives you a little bit of information on each one, and sort of what sort of resides in there, any sort of encounters you might be able to build into the level if you wanted to. And then it just covers the location. Each as I said, each level has its own theme. When you think about it, a lot of people think, well, you know, this is a bad thing because what I'm getting is just dungeons. But they are essentially just going vertical, downward, rather than horizontal from one location to the next. I don't actually see there being a huge problem. Shambling mounds, bollywogs galore, plenty of bollywogs for you to communicate with, battle or just negotiate with, and a reasonably decent map. I know the lack of art and the lack of colour in the maps is a bit off-putting at times, but I can see the rationale behind it because there's just so much information here. Fungal farms, grow your own fungus, sell it to somebody else, or maybe you eat it. Duragar, more drow, serpent gates. There's a lot of gates that lead to other locations, some that will have things that are trapped within them, or take you to a different level within the dungeon, or take you wherever you want. I mean, you essentially could just do whatever you want with those gates if you really wanted to. There's a snake or Yanti temple included, Kulis Lair, the Black Tongue Isle, and then of course your wrap up. Okay, so level 9 is, now if I can get this right, it's pretty hard to pronounce, Domakor. So it's called Domakor. There is an Arcane who runs Domakor. This is an evil mage academy. It's literally like a mage school, and it's right here in one of the levels, including, yes, of course, a Norfolk. There is a bunch of evil mages that you can interact with or ignore, or maybe you sort of skip past a lot of this. Included as well is a hag who's sort of the second in command, and you get a little bit of information about Wormriddle, the night hag, and the Arcane headmaster, whose name is secret. Nobody actually knows the real name of this Arcane, which is deliberate on their part. And breaks it down. You get your hall entry locations, trapped hallways, bone devils. Yes, there's plenty of bone devils. That's right, Medusa Junction. There are workshops, fountains, reading niches, including libraries and other things. All the sorts of things you would expect. Dormitories for the students, and a whole bunch of different dynamics between the students are taking place. So you can interact with them and maybe play them off against each other, or just benefit from whatever they have. Which I wouldn't say there's a huge amount of treasure or magical items or spell books sitting in this location, but certainly there's the potential for that sort of thing if you really wanted to sort of add that in. If you like that sort of thing, you've got somebody in the party who's a wizard. Potion brewery, so you're going to brew some potions, or just brew some ale. Maybe just brew some ale. Callister's horrors. Yes, there are helmed horrors in the adventure. I think pretty much they used every monster they could possibly find in the monster manual for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I don't think there's too many that have been excluded. Maybe the only one I can think of, maybe the Kraken has not been included, or the Tarask. That would probably be about it. I just met a girl named Sharina. I don't know who Sharina is. Now the Shadow Dusk are a family who have fallen out of favour with the Lords of Waterdeep, and you'll find their presence in various locations within the levels of Undermountain. So yeah, if you come across them, they are a bad sort, and you'll find out more about them as you go. Ghosts reside. It kind of feels a little bit like Harry Potter's Hogwarts, but with an evil bent, if you ask me. Okay, so level 10 is Meryl's Gauntlet. Now, Meryl's Gauntlet is kind of horrible. Meryl is a misshapen creature. He's kind of flavoured like the Scorpion King movie. Essentially, the top half is human or humanoid, and the bottom half is a scorpion. So hence my analogy with the Scorpion King movie. This individual is dangerous. This whole location is just a death trap. That's really all it's called. That's why it's called a gauntlet. Muriel has basically made arrangements with Callister to allow Callister to place down a vast array of very nasty traps that will kill the player's characters fairly quickly and efficiently. So I don't want to go into all the details, but think of every trap that you can imagine, and it's probably in here somewhere. It's sort of wandering monsters you get going to come across: ghouls, zombies, skeletons, your normal fare. Troglodytes are included as well. There's a gang operating in here if you feel like playing them up against somebody else. But even though the level looks fairly sort of basic and like it's forged out, it's a trap. It's dangerous wherever they go. Each level: Shattered Mirrors, Haunted Temple of Loth. Yes, Loth is involved. We've got Drow, so Loth has got to be involved somewhere, right? Laboratories, pantries. But as I was looking through here, I noticed there were a lot of traps, a lot of locked doors too. So if you take something like the spell Knock, you're going to be using it a lot. It'll be very useful for the players to have Knock for this. Guest apartment, ballrooms, palaces for Loth, screaming skulls, false mirror gates. So not every gate that they come across actually takes you anywhere. Some will just be there to stump them and confuse them. Some will actually take them to a location. First Blood. A little bit of artwork. This is rare, as I said. You don't get a lot of it. There's a hatchery for spiders, of course, that you would expect that in a location that has drow. The Spider Queen's Temple. And an armory. Natural caves. Things like that. Okay, so this is the level I was talking about with the troglodytes. This is level 11. It's a troglodyte warren, and the troglodyte clan is being captured by drow, and they need somebody's help to be freed. Otherwise, they're all going to be captured and put into slavery. Now, if you don't like troglodytes, then that's fine. But I thought this was quite cool, because now you're turning a monster that's normally something the players would just dispose of into something that needs their help. And it makes a lot of sense for them to assist them in their journey if they can help the troglodytes. Otherwise, you're going to sort of face off against everybody. I actually like the idea that the monsters are more than just baddies and nasties that you dispose of and take their stuff, that actually need their help. It reminds me of Keep on the Borderlands, where the goblins and kobolds had babies and children that needed to be looked after, and so it wasn't as easy as, oh, we're just going to kill everybody, because it was designed to make the players feel really, really guilty, as they should. Anyway, we've got drow, we've got troglodytes, we've got a bear. It's a monstrous serpent, for those of you who are unaware, and mutant trolls, plenty of mutant trolls. So there is a troglodyte chain gang that you can try to rescue. They have been captured by the drow. Huge location. Like all of the maps, each location is massive. False camps, troglodyte lairs, piercing caves, troll tunnels, forest of stone. So stalagmites. You do a good location to stick something like a roper. I feel like a rope is quite a fun creature to have, particularly if you have good long fall close to it. And included is a bear hair lair. So this thing actually has a lair of its own, which I think is awesome. They've even included some of the key legendary actions that it might have, which is awesome. Okay, level 12. This is where we start getting into mazes. So level 12 is the maze level. So a tribe of Minotaurs is battling for control of the maze caverns, while drow are summoning demons. Of course, why would they not do that? As for something like the Gith, Githyanki, yes, there's definitely Githyanki, we're getting there. So if you're wondering about Githyanki, absolutely. The Shadow Dusk Emissaries are here. So I was talking about the family of the Shadow Dusk. They are sort of, they've been ejected from the above ground. They were part of the nobility of Waterdeep, and they no longer reside in Waterdeep. They now live below ground. Feels a bit Lex Luthor-y, if you ask me. Okay, so lots of Minotaurs. Bahamut, the Horned King, is the key deity for our Minotaurs in this location. Plenty of maze locations. This is the basic maze location here, and over here is where you'll find most of the drow who are doing this most stupidest thing of all. They are summoning demons, of course. Why would they not do that? Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's summon some demons. Nothing bad can come of that. Demon triangles designed to try to control them. Good luck with that. Shrine of the Horned King. Foggy caves. Guard caves. Crickets and bats. Yes, that's right. You're going to have these are not crickets that you need to battle. They just make a lot of noise. And dead ends. Yes, that's one of the things I need to point out. There's a lot of dead ends, false doors, as I was mentioning before. Demon's Ledge, and a whole lot of information on the fortress defences. So the fortress itself is well defended. The drow have gone to great lengths to make sure it is difficult to enter. And then we also have Spider Watch Keep. So within the fortress there's actually a keep near the centre of it. Halls of Spiders. You'll notice that as you go through this adventure there's a lot of drow involved. The drow have certainly moved in here and have a huge part to play in the adventure. And I noticed as you move through the levels, their involvement seems to permeate the whole thing. It's only the very last lower levels where there don't seem to be any involvement by the drow, and I think that's because they're getting closer and closer to the likes of Izzard the Lich, and also to Callister and his particular home. Okay, level 13 is Trobard's Graveyard. Now, Trobard's Graveyard is quite peculiar. There's a clever rock gnome left over. His Zort is a survivor from another adventuring party, and he spends his time making magical constructs. The whole place is basically a junkyard for magical constructs. That's what this location is populated by. So everything you face, even if it has a stat block for a monster, everything is made of metal. There's nothing really living here apart from this gnome and a few other creatures. So there's a purple worm, as you can see on from the picture. There's definitely a purple worm, but it's a mechanical purple worm, for those of you who are wondering what's going on here. And Zox basically spends all of his time just making constructs, or getting more and more constructs constructed so he can make all the things he can imagine. And you'll soon find out this is a bad thing, because there's more involved here. Callister's been up to mischief. So this is the location here. It's not quite as varied, and there's not quite as many locations within this area, simply because of the nature of it. It's quite a vast area, so you don't have, it's a very short chapter basically. Vast chambers, junkyards. There are a few hobgoblins, or vanguard of hobgoblins, hanging out here. There's a pretty big hate machine. So a lot of the things that are built here by Zox are dangerous, or misplaced, or he hasn't really thought out the ethical nature of constructing something like that. Scrap metal warrens. Rust monsters. Yes, you're going to face rust monsters in that level. They got plenty to eat too, as it happens. Metal pull, smithy, tinkering shops. So if you like making stuff, this is a good place to do that. There is also shield guardians, and the rock gnome Zox is probably the key feature for this location, if you ask me. And that's that location. Level 14, which I have to say I struggle pronouncing. Level 14 is just crazy. The Arcturdome. The Arcturdome. The Arcturdome is basically a fire giant dominated location. The fire giants in this location are in the service of Callister, and they are forging a 100-foot construct of the Mad Mage. It's a Callister mech. Do you know what I mean? A Callister mech. This has actually popped up in some of the Acquisitions Incorporated adventures, for those of you who have been tracking their progress and what they do. So, this is where it all started, apparently. This is where it is. So yes, you can explore the level. It's quite vast, it's huge, it's massive, and yes, this gives the players an opportunity to meddle and dispose of this giant mech of Callister. Foyers, fungus gardens, prisons, smithies, dwarven dens, the statue of Callister himself. And level 15 is where the mech of Callister is situated. Transmutation locations, hidden storage. So yes, lots of fun. Plenty of charts. They haven't included monstrous amounts of charts in the book, which I think is actually probably really good. And we'll skip past all of that. So I think this is probably going to be tough for most players, because you're dealing with fire giants. Fire giants are no pushover. Okay, so level 15 is obstacle course. 15 obstacle course. So now, if I get the name right, Netherskull, the death tyrant, who is a beholder, lairs in this death trap. This is much worse. The obstacle course is just a mess. If this is one level you want to avoid, the death trap ruins are the one you want to definitely avoid. Now, Netherskull, the death tyrant, was actually defeated by Callister many years ago, but Callister couldn't bring himself to actually obliterate the beholder completely. Instead, there's an arrangement between the two. The beholder keeps doing his thing and lives on through undeath, and Callister just spends all of his time dumping traps into this location. So if this is going to polish anybody off, this will certainly do it. Githzerai. For those of you who are wondering about the Gith, there are Githzerai in this level. Lava children and their friends. Okay, so every trap you can possibly think of. Covered traps, teleport traps. A lot of the traps actually take you from one location and dump you into another location, and that's where all the bad things happen to you. So here is the location right here. As I said, every square is 10 foot, not 5 foot. And you get to, there's I believe a race involved here with minecarts. A little bit Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom like, I guess. Fildo's Folly, Caught in the Tentacles. I'm not quite sure what the tentacles are all about, but we'll soon find out. Oh, that's right, Mind Flayers. Mind Flayers play a big part in the adventure. Various levels. The deeper you go, the more Mind Flayers you tend to come across. A roller dragon. Think of it as a roller coaster. A young gold dragon on a stone roller. Really, really weird. I don't quite understand it. They've put every weird thing they could possibly think of in this location. I think it's great. I think the book gives you a lot of variety. Ruined armory, ruined shrines, destroyed rooms, teleport traps and how they work. Statues of Vergadan. I don't know who Vergadan is. And what you'll notice is that as you go through these levels, some of the locations actually take you to other worlds as well. The Hall of Embers, Callister's handiwork, trapped halls, Chasm's Edge, Scythe Seeing. Yes, that means a scythe trap. Okay, alright, so every conceivable trap you can think of, and as you get near the end of it, you're going to have to deal with a Death Tyrant. Good luck with that. Okay, so level 16 is the Crystal Labyrinth. The Crystal Labyrinth is yet another maze, essentially, but Githyanki have tracked a colony of Mind Flayers to this location, to the Crystal Maze, and fashioned into this location a fortress and a Stardock gate. Literally a gate that allows them to take them to the astral plane. Isn't that cool? I thought that was just amazing. What a wonderful idea. So here is the level itself, and to access the Stardock, or the gate to the Stardock, you go through here, just this location, and it'll take you to this map, which is essentially getting you from Undermountain into the astral sea, or the astral planes. Isn't that cool? I thought that was marvellous as an idea. Red dragons, a lot of dragons in this location. A lot of Githyanki warriors and so forth, and guards and various other things, but certainly just masses and masses of dragons. I think they actually use the dragons as mounts to fly around with to a large extent. But I was amazed at how many there were. Stardock gates, Golem laboratories, lots of golems to play with. Unless, of course, you don't like playing with golems. I can understand that. The Stardock is detailed as well. You will, of course, come across a few Mind Flayers, because they are battling with the Githyanki. And as I said, just truckloads. Adult red dragons. There's a lot of different dragons here. Armories, memorial hall, kitchen, quarters, messes, warrior training chambers, and the graduate chamber. So this is where they sort of train up. And the aftermath. I don't want to go into too much detail on this because it's going to be a long video. Okay, so level 17 is called Sea Deeps. Now, Sea Deeps, I thought initially was like an underwater location. But actually what Sea Deeps is, it's a large colony of Mind Flayers controlled by an elder brain that's planning to enslave the Waterdeep city. And they've been down here plotting for some time. And one of the adventure hooks that's presented initially actually sort of goes over that. Enemies of the gate, Mind Flayers galore, the city of the mind, as you would expect, and this is your location here. Flumps, if you like flumps, they're in here. Githyanki strongholds, battlegrounds, guard post operations, eat them all. Yes, that's what the Mind Flayers would like to do, eat their brains. Brains are tasty. Detention facilities, the Nexus, and Waterdeep. I don't know an awful lot about Waterdeep, but I feel like this is an opportunity to take your players from this location to an underwater adventure if you really wanted to. Let's get real. Running this whole thing would be really hard, but taking parts of it, cannibalizing it, and using it to your advantage would be awesome. Crumbling bridges. Okay, so level 18. Van Rock Doom. Now, level 18 is Lord Van Rock or should I say Van Rock Moonstar, has a cult of Shah seeking to dominate the Lords of Waterdeep. So they are conniving down here, trying to figure out how to control the Lords of Waterdeep from below. I thought this was quite cool. The story of Van Rock Moonstar is kind of sad and a bit tortured, and there's quite a lot of information which you may or may not wind up using. But as the Dungeon Master, there's certainly a lot of information there. I would certainly think about how you can present that information through this level so the players get access to it, so it's not sort of lost on them. Yes, that means dragons. That means a shadow dragon, as it happens. A very nasty shadow dragon. Now, as you're exploring through this level, you'll notice that one of the apprentices will help out. So if the players get themselves into trouble, one of the apprentices can help them. She actually lives within the very stonework of Undermountain itself, so she can move anywhere she likes, but she doesn't communicate in a way that makes an awful lot of sense. So often you might see a word appear on a stone, or maybe a door will open, or a door will lock itself or close to stop them going into a place they shouldn't go into, things like that. It's up to you as the dungeon master to figure out how that's going to work. Exploring this level, into the Shadowfell. Yes, that's right, the Shadowfell. Halls of worship, cultists galore. So this is the dungeon location here. And you get the ritual chambers, you get temple of... I feel like this is a good place to stick a chandelier. Chandeliers are great for hanging off, swinging on. Vampire dens, if you're wondering about the vampire dens, there are definitely vampire spawn within this location. Plenty of fun. Plenty of prisoners to rescue too, if you want to do that, that is. Hall of the Death, Shadow Edge. And there's a vampire boss. Okay, and a dragon horde, and a dragon to battle. As I said, I believe it's a shadow dragon in this location. What's his name? Umbraxka. That's the shadow dragon. Okay, so level 19 is caves or caverns of ooze, and two genies are competing here. They compete with each other, and they're trying to destroy Izzard the Lich, who's on a different level, and gain their freedom. So Callister has actually forced these genies into servitude, and the only way they can escape from Callister is to defeat the Lich Izzard. That's what this whole level is all about. So don't get distracted too much by the Mind Flayer image, because it's the interplay between the genies that's important. Obviously, Callister's got a big issue with having liches in his dungeon that aren't himself, I guess. Okay, so there's a genie of earth and water. A little bit of information on them. There's a Scavenger Crew. And this is the map here. So there's a ship, for those of you who were wondering what this wacky little thing is. It's located right here. It's actually docked in this location. It's been brought here. It's a shipwreck of sorts, you might say, and a rather nasty looking grotto. Plenty of oozes and jellies to deal with as well. They've got a song here, so if you're inclined to sing to your players, you can if you want. Space ogres. Yes, there are space ogres. Thanks for the memories. Stand gate to level 21. So, as I said, some of the gates that you come across will actually take you to other locations. There's a fake beholder in here. I don't know, why would you have a fake beholder? There's a lot of songs. I feel like it's very sort of piratey, if you ask me. Scavengers, more of that. The ooze den. And then level 20 is Runestone Caverns. Now, as you can see, that's a lich. Okay, so that's level 20, Runestone Caverns. Izzard the Lich plans to destroy Callister from his Stalagmite tower. That's really what this whole level is all about. Izzard is detailed in here. Stone cloaks are like stone golems, a few wandering monsters. There's the location, and the actual tower itself is positioned just over here, and there's a sort of a breakdown of what it would look like. Not a huge location, I guess, but I thought it was really cool. Mage's Golem Lair. So, as with any kind of lich, most of the things here are going to be constructs, really powerful ones at that, by the way. Where are we? Oh, that's right. There's a Mycon Sovereign, so that's sort of like a really powerful fungus. So lots of spore creatures and things like that. Mummies. There's a Mummy Lord Crypt, for those of you who want to rock out the mummy and cause some real pain and confusion. made of stone, way to the gate, weird magic, mad mage's puzzle. This is where we start to see a few puzzles cropping up. There's not a huge number of puzzles in the entire adventure, but there are some. Old Behar Lair. We've already battled one, but I don't believe the Behar is actually alive in this location. I think it was destroyed. And then the Stalagmite Tower, which is where Ezart resides. He has an animated staff, Lich's study, laboratory as you would expect, rooms of magic, a good place to pick up magic lore, I guess, and hopefully a vast array of spells, because Ezart has a spell book. If you can get it off him, he also has a phylactery. If they can find the phylactery, they might be able to destroy him permanently. What I disliked about this particular level is that Ezart's phylactery is on his level, hidden away, of course, and protected. But I just don't understand why his phylactery is on his level and why it's not somewhere else and harder to find. Because as a lich, you put your phylactery somewhere that's really hard to find. You don't usually have it really close to you. You put it in a really dangerous location and leave it there, right? And you disguise it so it's not obvious that it's in a room. This is the Phylactery Room. This is where we go for the phylactery so we can destroy the lich. That's one of the things I don't like about that level. Okay, level 21 is Terminus level. It's a dump for failed monstrous experiments. It is currently now dominated by a fallen angel called Phazran. Phazran has pretty much destroyed all of the failed monstrosities and experiments that Callister has created here, and now sort of rules this location. It's like his own personal court. I would say this is the Judge Dredd level, where you have to face somebody who has wings and is vastly powerful and clearly absolutely succumbed to his own bloodlust and is not really much of an angel anymore. You see, in the book, he's described as being a Planitor. The Remor has, oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice, that's what it is. Duragar, Beholder Zombies, this is the level. So there are dark dwarves in this location. Formians, and a variety of different things that you can come across. Hammer and anvil. Look, there's a mine here, so there are things being mined in this location by the dwarves or Duragar for the purposes of something very, very bad. Nothing above ground is ever going to want to see these things show the light of day. Clean air station, so there's a location for actually creating clean air. I don't quite understand that. Phazran's court is included as well. This is probably where you will actually meet the fallen angel on this level, unless of course you find another way to get around it. Okay, so the concept behind this level is that Phazran needs to be destroyed, but maybe your players will find an alternative, and I think you should be reasonably flexible with them, if you ask me. Okay, we're almost there. Level 22. Level 22 is the Shadow Dusk Hold. Now, I was talking about that noble family that have fallen out of sorts with the Lord's Alliance and the people above in Waterdeep. Well, this is where they hold up now. This is their underground mansion owned by the Shadow Dusk family that are currently in exile. So I think many Lex Luthors live down here. And that's essentially what we're dealing with. There's a heap of information on the Shadow Dusks and this location, so don't worry about that. And it is essentially an underground mansion for the sake of what sort of environment and feel it will have. So this is why I say this mega dungeon isn't just a whole lot of caves and cabins or caverns. It's themed. So now we have a mansion level that you get to explore with twisted galleries. It's got its own foyers and wings, west wing, east wing, storage rooms, kitchens, derelict shrines, decayed quarters. Anything you can think of that might be in a mansion is going to be here. A lounge. And I'm a privy. I'm not going to go over all of it. There is a parlour. There's a meditation room. The lower halls. Secret rooms to be found. And there is also a Dracolich phylactery area. So that, yes, I said Dracolich, that's right. Dracolich phylactery area. Which sort of suggests there's a Dracolich somewhere, because there is. There is an adult blue Dracolich for the players to play with, or be destroyed by. It's really going to be up to them, isn't it? So that's level 22. The last level is level 23, and this is the Mad Wizard's Lair. This is Callister Blackcloak's Mage Tower, his home to many secrets, and essentially everything that he sort of does with the whole dungeon lair revolves around this location. This is the most dangerous place to be. When I looked at it, it's actually quite short and small, but hugely dangerous for anybody playing the adventure. And I would even make it more dangerous, if you ask me, just because I think Callister deserves to have a good farewell. Not that I think the players are going to get a nasty surprise when they find out that Callister reforms after a certain period of time anyway, no matter what happens. It's a little bit like Strahd from Barovia. Callister's just too important, I guess, and I wouldn't even say he's a lich as such. He's more bound to this location than anything else. I think you would have to literally destroy the entire dungeon location of Undermountain to destroy Callister Blackcloak. So he has a reversed library, he has helmed horrors on guard, talking heads for you to discuss how they would like to die. There's a magical repository, libraries and wards for wizards, a teleportation pillar, lots and lots of traps, arcane displays, a vault, yes, a vault, lots of fun stuff there. And most of the stuff here are constructs, things that are dangerous, but made of metal or wood or stone, iron, things like that. I'll keep flicking my way through here. There is a lich on this level, by the way, that is not Callister. Callister's not actually, as far as I know, Callister's not actually a lich as such. Not in a true sense of the word anyway, or meaning. And then we've got Callister's Tower, which is featured here. Gates to the Icewind Dale. He's got his own sort of way of transporting himself around, if you might say, from this level. He can go pretty much anywhere he likes. I mean, he's powerful enough, he could do it. It's just everybody else trying to leave that's going to be the problem, right? He's got an art studio. You've got to have your own art studio. Apprentice portraits. So each of the different apprentices are featured. There's a little bit of information on each one. If you wanted to know a little bit of information, it's going to be here on page 300. Flying saucers. I feel that's very sort of... flying saucers feels very UFO, fantasy, sci-fi like. But anyway, there's a gate to Tribor as well. As I was talking about, he has gates that will take him to other locations within Faerun, and an exercise room. I don't know, do wizards actually exercise? I've never even thought of that. Okay, Skullport can be accessed from many locations. It's sort of like, rather than going all the way back to the top of the dungeon levels, or Undermountain to Waterdeep, they can hang out at Skullport. This is a grim port of cutthroats where you can, it's essentially a sort of a very nasty underground trading town. That's really what it is. It's got an overview for Skullport. Here it is right here. Anything you might want to sort of buy, most of the things or locations are populated by monsters or nasty creatures or things that you really need to be careful of. There are 13 ancient flaming skulls that haunt Skullport. So That could be a lot of fun, particularly since they can pop up and down from total cover and hurl a fireball and then take off. So yes, lots of fun to be had. There are 60 bugbears on this level. And they could access this location even potentially at level 1. There's a Kurtoa lair, old markets, the black tankard, so if they want to get drunk they can, a square, a bit of a market, Dead Man's Corner. Yes, so lots of fun places to explore and check out. I thought this was really a cool idea. It sort of reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean, and is it Tortuga? The pirate town, basically. It sort of reminds me of this. It's just underground. Skullport, why not? Okay, so that is all of the adventure content. Next we get into Appendix A, which is your dungeon denizens. Callister Blackcloak has a lot of page space, so huge stat block, very powerful wizard, lair actions, regional effects. Make sure you use all this stuff. Make sure he's difficult to deal with. And I think that Callister won't necessarily run from a battle, but I think you should put enough things in front of them that help, because Callister can figure out who's coming through his dungeon location. The only one that Callister doesn't really know very much about is one of those apprentices that currently lives within the stonework of the Undermountain. There's an Archdruid, stat block, champions, Githyanki Gish, Lava Children, ugh, kind of weird, Living Unseen Servants, Myril, this is the individual I was talking about who has the body of a human, but the torso and head and arms of a human, but the rest of it is all Scorpion. Scorpion King, right? It's definitely Scorpion King-like. A few other monsters, Werebats, Shadow Assassins, and then you get the Elder Rune deck, which you can photocopy and then cut out. Don't cut it out of the book, that would be silly. Secret decks, these are secrets that you'll use throughout your adventure. I'm not so fond of just giving away stuff. I really want my players to find out stuff as I go. So that is the whole book. That is everything in the entire book. I've paged through or flipped through every single page of this thing so you could see everything. As you can see, there's not a lot of artwork. What do I think? I actually think it's a really good book. I'm impressed. I think it was worth my money, considering the size. I think it's worth your effort to pick up. If you're not into mega dungeons, I would just use parts of it. You don't have to use the entire thing. That's my opinion anyway. So look, if you found this helpful or informative, great. Please share and like the video. If you want to support me, and you like this sort of thing, I do this from time to time, so hit subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and I publish new videos. If you really want to support me, watching this video helps me because I get ad revenue from the AdSense feeds, okay? When you watch the ads, I get some money from that, which is great. You can also continue to support me by watching more of my videos. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description there are affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon. Included is a link to this book if you want to go and purchase it from Amazon. As for everything else, look, I'm happy for you to give me feedback in the live chat right now, because that's the whole point of this. So your feedback, your opinions, we'll discuss that now. If you're not part of the live stream though, that's what the comments section is all about. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, bear with me. I've been talking non-stop for an hour and 24 minutes. So if I seem a little bit tired, there's a good reason. For those of you who managed to sit through the whole thing, you're crazy. But I do appreciate it if you made it all the way through. Okay. Okay, so what have we got here? Mike G, retracted message. I'm not sure what it's all about, Mike, but glad to have you in the room. Certainly you were here at one point. Username on not invalid. Username not invalid? I'm not sure what that's all about. I'm just going to flick back my screen. I don't want to flick through the book as I'm going because it's just going to be too hard and I'm just about ready to fall over. Does anyone see anything about flying boats and ships? Yes, there is a flying boat or ship in the adventure, so don't worry about that. Is that the tiny castle you shrunk down into? Yes, there is a tiny castle included. Do I remember what level it's on? I think I already talked about it. So definitely there is a tiny castle in the adventure. Eat cake to grow to size, or is it drink and shrink, or is it drink and grow? I think it's drink and shrink and eat and grow. Correct? Hi Joe, how's it going? Hi Tommy, just got here. Is there? Yes, we already talked about that. Antonio is from the USA. Yes, welcome. I'm from New Zealand, as it happens. Hi Tommy. Yeah, I think it is going to be fun to play. I think what concerns me is it might come off as being a bit repetitive if you don't have a really strong lead into the adventure, which is why I think it would be sensible to have Callister affecting everybody above ground so that people are wondering what's going on below Waterdeep and that they should explore under mountain. And I would essentially make the party of your party that your players make up, I would have them just one of many adventuring groups that have been sent down into Undermountain to find out what the heck is going on, because there's been earthquakes or volcanoes or tidal waves, or holes have appeared, or statues have come to life and stomped through the streets, things like that. Anything that would sort of stand out and give them cause to think that somebody is mucking around with Waterdeep. I think it is a great book myself. You have a digital copy, Joe? Okay. I think I'm going to stick with the hard copy. I just don't have the resources and money to be able to fork out money for the hard copy and a digital copy. And the digital copy is not something that's guaranteed that I'll be able to keep for the rest of my life because it's not a PDF. It is just access to digital content on a website, which if they ever lose the license, you don't have access to. So I just can't go for that myself. That's not to say that I don't see benefits in D&D Beyond. That's not the case. I do see benefits, I just can't afford it. Okay, I think that's it. It is Christmas Eve here in New Zealand, and I need to go and eat some food and have a rest. And I will probably post up a video that's pre-recorded for tomorrow, but I won't be actually doing anything tomorrow because, as it happens, I won't be here. What's that, Joe? Can I tie Callister to Phandalin somehow? I think you can, Joe. I think that there's a lot of people who are going to want to run the Lost Mine of Phandalin and go from Phandalin to Waterdeep and run Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I think it can be done. Because really there isn't much left for the players to do in Phandalin. They've done everything. So if there's a call made for adventuring parties to find out what has befallen Waterdeep and search Undermountain, then maybe that's one of the simplest way of leading them in. It's not a very creative way of leading them in, but it's certainly one way of doing it. Maybe I will get around to making a video on how to tie the Lost Mine of Phandalin into Dungeon of the Mad Mage, or how to tie Dragon Heist into the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We'll see. I don't want to talk about things that I haven't really had a lot of experience behind. And Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to you, Tommy. Okay, that's it. I'm heading off. You guys have a good day, good night, good evening, good morning. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I'll see you later.